my farm dog, and I'm going to show you how we discovered that she was diabetic and how we actually managed that ourselves with our own glucometer and with buying insulin at the regular pharmacy, because we found that going through the vets was very expensive, very time consuming, and actually put our dog at bigger health risk. So I want to share with you these kind of inside secrets. Of course, I have a nursing background, so I was very familiar with handling diabetes in people, and it's really not that different in dogs. So we manage it all ourselves. And so we had our first dog, Molly, who also was diabetic. So since this one also became diabetic at all older age, we have switched our dog food and no longer feed PC, President's Choice food is what we were feeding our dogs. And both of our older senior female dogs became diabetic, so we don't feed that anymore. And our first dog, Molly, she went to the vet because we noticed that she was losing weight, she had to pee all the time, she seemed a little bit irritable, and by the time she was eventually diagnosed with diabetes after months of testing and glucose following and doing all this other blood work and waiting for the results to come back, we found out, yep, she's diabetic. And what that meant is she was living on a really high sugar level for a long time, that she actually got cataracts and became blind. Whereas if you manage your dog's sugar level right away from the beginning, they don't get the same damage to their eyes and they can actually keep their eyesight. The other thing is that having super high sugar levels puts you at risk for other health issues. So the fact that we had to wait so long to confirm that all her other blood work and everything was fine, that it wasn't any other organs failing, actually put us at greater cost and put our dog at greater risk of other things and other complications. And Molly has since passed away. She did live for a year of us managing her diabetes, but then she has passed away since. She was old, she had a good life, and now we have Lona Bean, and they were sisters, but Lona didn't get her diabetes until about a year after Molly. And so now that we've picked up on the same signals with her, where she was peeing frequently, having issues with eating, and just seemed to be a little bit different, we thought, okay, we are going to check our sugars ourselves, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how to do that. And then we started buying our insulin from the pharmacy, because you don't need a prescription to buy insulin. And so I'm going to show you guys exactly what type of insulin we buy and just show you how we manage it. So with the glucometer, I use just a check pet one. So it is a dog glucometer. And I'm going to show you how we do this, because there wasn't really anywhere for me to figure out how to do this myself. And I had to learn. And when we realized that her sugars were high, we actually took her to the vet to confirm. Like, I tested her blood there with this and then tested with their glucometer just to confirm that this wasn't lying, that it was really high. I wanted to make sure that ours was actually working, and it was, so all was good there. So the glucometer comes with these little sharp pointy things which we're going to use to prick a little bit of blood. And you can put them into a pen, but I find that a little bit harder and a little bit more finicky, so I just use it the way it is. So what I'm going to do is twist the cap off so it's ready, so my little pointy part is there. And then the next thing I need to do is get my glucometer ready. So I'm just going to put this down. It's not touching anything. The pointing end is not touching anything. I'm going to get my little strip out. Lona, she's like, I don't want to be poked. And you don't have to check your dog's sugar every day. Once you've established what insulin they're getting, we check it maybe every couple weeks. You don't have to, or unless something weird is going on, like if she had a heat cycle or if she ate something unusual or had extra exercise. I know it's not fun to do. Come here. Lona, come here. Lona, come here. Lona, come here. Good girl. Good girl. I'm going to swing her around so that way you guys can see a little better. So what I need to do is have this in my glucometer first. So I put the glucometer piece in. It's going to beep a little bit. No big deal. And then once it has this little drop, it's ready. Ouch! That's my other dog was barking. So then what we want to do is on their paw, the big piece here, that's where you're going to prick. So I take my little pointy end and I pinch it, and I'm going to gently poke. I just go in gently and come out, and then I kind of squeeze it, and now there's a drop of blood. So I take my glucometer and I touch it to the strip end, and you can see it filled with blood very quickly. Now my glucometer is counting down the time, And so it's going to count down and tell me, and it's telling me 4:56, and that's because she had a couple treats. And there are different ways to measure their sugar. So the method that she's doing is the milligrams/DL. And so those normal numbers, a diabetic dog, you usually want somewhere between 60 and 200. So the fact that she's at 4:56, she's due for her insulin now. So that's the highest, like she's high right now, but we're gonna give her insulin. And I'll show you guys how we do that. So I know she's 4:56, which means that she needs her dose of insulin. You do have to be super careful about going too low. If a dog or a human goes too low in their sugars, they can actually lose consciousness or even die from too low of sugars. So it's actually safer to be a little bit high than it is to be a little bit low. So for a healthy dog, a normal dog that doesn't have diabetes, their sugar would typically be between 60 and 100. But for a diabetic dog, between 60 and 200 is okay, because you'd rather be that little high at 200 than you would be down at 50, because that would be putting your dog at even more risk for other things. And with that type of measurement, if you go over 600, it's super high, and that's usually needs lots of insulin or even go to the vet. So I'm gonna put those there. Now that we know that she has a little bit high, we're gonna do her insulin. When you do your insulin, when we've done our insulin for the first time, it is good to get your vet's input about what amount to start at, and you do have to be very careful about how much you go up or down. So you're usually only changing insulin by a unit or two, but you're not doing a whole lot. And so the insulin that we buy from the pharmacy is this Novolin 30-70 is what the one that we buy at the pharmacy. And it's got this white stuff in it, which is the insulin. So I just have to gently mix it. You don't want to shake it because you don't want to put air bubbles in there. So I just gently tip it. That's how I do it. And then what I'm going to do is I've got my needle here, and the dose that she's getting, that she's been kind of used to getting, is 26 units. So I set my syringe to 26 units, and I'm going to poke and insert air into my insulin, and then I'm going to draw back to my 26 to get my 26. And then where do we give the insulin? So I got my 26 there, so I'll take that out. Where I give is I just squeeze all this neck fat fluff together, and I try not to inject the exact same spot every time. I just squeeze all that neck fluff together, nowhere near my fingers. I just go straight in. I'm holding the syringe, and then I plunge down after I know that it's in her, and then I take it out, and it's all done. So now she's done. You can see she's excited because she knows she gets her dinner afterwards. So once you give your dog their insulin, or when we give our dog her insulin, the next thing is we want to make sure they get food, because her insulin is going to start to cause her sugars to go down, and then we want to make sure she has food in her belly, so that way it just works together really well. And usually the insulin peaks about 3 to 4 hours after you get it. That's when she'll be the lowest. So then we want to make sure she's had food. If their sugar goes too low, then what we need to do is give honey to bring her sugars back up. Most of the time it's honey that we use. You can use like a corn syrup or something else to try to bring that sugar up. That's what we do. And when I'm giving all of this advice, I'm kind of trying to share what we've discovered with our dog, make it a little bit easier for you to access that and know that you can manage it on your own, knowing that, let's say her sugar was getting higher at hitting the 500s all the time, then I'd probably increase her insulin to 27 instead of 26, so we could try it out, rather than needing to spend even more money. Because for some people, when your dog becomes diabetic, it becomes more work, because you've got to do it morning and night to make sure the sugars stay balanced. But it can also be very expensive. But when we buy this insulin at our pharmacy, it's only $40 a bottle, versus going through our vet, it's a lot more. Plus, when you go through your vet, you also have to usually do the glucose a 24-hour test where they want to follow the curve, or I think it's a 12-hour test. And so you end up with these $100 bills every month trying to have them monitor the glucose, when you can actually monitor the glucose, which means the sugar, using the glucometer yourself. And these are really reasonably priced on Amazon. You can just order one. It's really simple. And then that way you can avoid a lot of those extra costs, and keeping your dog healthy with insulin becomes more affordable, and also becomes a little bit easier, because instead of arranging to take your dog to go get these glucose curves frequently and reorder the insulin, it's now a lot easier. You just pick up the insulin wherever your local pharmacy is and take care of it all at home. So I hope you found this really interesting and helpful. We have our farm dogs. The other ones are on the other side. Kept them separate over there. We have our corgis. They're like potato chips. You can't just have one. They're our family dogs, and a lot of farms and horse people have dogs. So even though this is a horsey channel, I'm hoping that you love dogs too, and that you found this really helpful. And if you know anybody who has a dog that's drinking excessively or is maybe diabetic, you can share this with them, and hopefully they'll find it helpful to see how we check the glucose, give the insulin, and what kind of insulin we buy at the pharmacy. Thanks for watching.
Remember to subscribe and check out harmonyhorsemanship.com for even more learning.